I paid for my mom's dream vacation to thank her for raising me alone. But when we got there, she brought her new family, who were really rude. She made me share a room with the kids. I decided to leave them there and go off on my own. I recently got promoted and got a big raise. So I asked my mom if she wanted to go on a trip to Greece with me. My mom was like my best friend growing up because I didn't have a dad. My dad passed away when I was really young, so I barely remember him. It was mostly my mom who took care of me, with some help from my grandparents. Being a single mom was tough for her, but she never made me feel like a burden, and I'm really grateful for that. When I got promoted, my first thought was to take a vacation with my mom to thank her for everything she's done. I could have invited my friends, but I didn't because my mom meant so much to me. However, when I asked her if she wanted to come, she said she would, but only if she could bring her husband and stepkids. My mom married her current husband 3 years ago. They had been together for a while before that, but she didn't tell anyone until they were engaged. It was all a surprise to us, and we didn't have much time to adjust before they got married. I didn't really get along with my stepdad for some reason. Maybe it was because he and his kids became my mom's main focus, or maybe he just didn't try to connect with me or my grandparents. Whatever the reason, we didn't get along, and when I visited my mom, we tried to avoid each other as much as possible. He also has 2 teenage kids from his previous marriage, a 16-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy. I'm not exactly sure why his ex-wife left him, but according to my mom, it's because she was conniving and selfish and didn't care about him or the kids. She hasn't gone into details, and I haven't asked because it's not my business. My stepdad was married for 6 years and had been divorced for almost 2 when he met my mother and chose to be with her. They all seemed fine together, so I didn't question my mom's decision to include her family. It meant more expense and hassle, with 4 flight tickets and 2 hotel rooms instead of 2. But I was okay with it because the trip was about making my mom happy and repaying her for everything she did for me growing up. After a few days, I agreed to let her bring her family along since I could afford it easily after the raise. After almost 2 weeks of planning, we finally boarded our flights and arrived in Athens yesterday afternoon, all tired from the journey. The kids napped in my room while my mom and stepdad took the one beside ours. I was surprised they chose to stay in my room, but I didn't say anything, assuming it was just for convenience. Even after we all woke up, they didn't move, but I didn't mind as we went out to explore the local area. When we returned to the hotel, the kids went straight to my room again, so I decided to talk to my mom and stepdad about it. I pulled them aside in the lobby and suggested it was time for the kids to switch rooms, but my stepdad just laughed and joked that if I wanted to give my mom a vacation so badly, I should have considered that she'd need babysitting services too. I was confused, but he explained that since I organized the vacation for my mom to take a break from her daily life, I should take responsibility for looking after the kids too. The only thing I could do for her was to look after the kids and let them share a room with me. They both smiled, thanked me, and left me speechless in the lobby. I felt like I was already doing the least I could by taking her on vacation with me. How many kids would do that for their parents nowadays? Honestly, I felt like I was doing the most I could, especially since I was putting up with her family even though I had only wanted to take her with me. On top of that, I was the one paying for everything, so for them to expect me to babysit their kids as well was just ridiculous. If she wanted a break, she should have just left them at home and come with me by herself, like I had planned for her. After a while, I went up to their room and tried to talk some sense into them again. But once more my stepdad intervened, and this time he was a lot less nice about it. He told me straight up that I had to share the room with the kids because they had earned this break. Then he shut the door in my face before I could even respond. What's worse, my mom didn't even say anything to him, even though he was being extremely disrespectful and rude towards me. It was ridiculous that he believed they had earned this break when it was actually my promotion and raise that had led to this trip in the first place. Instead of being grateful, they were disrespectful towards me. I was furious when I got back to my room and saw the kids on the bed beside mine. I thought I'd try a different approach and asked them if they'd be willing to shift to the other room, but they said their parents had told them to stay wherever I was. It wasn't their fault their dad was being difficult. So I let them be and pondered my next move for a couple of hours until around 10 o'clock at night, when I realized the kids had fallen asleep. I had thought about it long and hard and realized the only way out for me was to leave without telling any of them and leave them to their own devices. They had been disrespectful and selfish, and I wasn't going to let my stepdad boss me around on a vacation I was paying for. I didn't hesitate. Before I knew it, I grabbed all my bags and made a run for it. Since I hadn't unpacked yet, it was easy for me, and the hotel staff didn't seem to mind much since I had informed them that I was checking out and that my mother and stepdad would be covering the room expenses. It was a little past midnight, but after some searching, I found another hotel a bit away from the one I was in. Luckily, I managed to get an Uber quickly, and within half an hour, I checked into the new hotel, which was even better than the previous one. Now that I had gotten rid of my mom and her family, I could finally spend all that money on myself. I had a restful night's sleep, and the first thing I did in the morning was book myself a full-body massage at the hotel spa to relax and fully enjoy the vacation I had been looking forward to after months of hard work for the promotion. I had already blocked my stepdad and mother the night before, so I wasn't too concerned about hearing from them, and there was no way for them to find out where I was. I was having a great time so far. However, a couple of hours ago, during lunch, I finally heard from my mother. She had created a fake Instagram account to reach out to me and sent a message expressing how cruel she thought I was being, especially to her. She said that leaving my family behind wasn't the right thing to do, and that if I had felt so upset about the previous night's events, I should have waited until morning to talk things through like a family until we reached a resolution that satisfied everyone. She also mentioned that they didn't have any money on them at the moment, as their cards wouldn't work internationally, and the hotel staff was pressuring them for payment since they were considering checking out after discovering my abrupt departure in the middle of the night without any explanation. Essentially, they didn't have any money and would soon be kicked out of the hotel if they couldn't confirm payment for the rooms. Since I had transferred the rooms to them before leaving, I couldn't be held responsible for any issues that arose, which I knew were likely. My mother expressed deep disappointment in me and said she hadn't expected such immature behavior. She demanded I return immediately to sort things out and bail them out. It was this entitled attitude that angered me. In the heat of the moment, I messaged her back, telling her she was an adult and could handle it herself. I suggested she ask her husband for help since she relies on him for everything now. This angered her even more, and she said she regretted agreeing to accompany me on the vacation. She accused me of being jealous of her new life and family and deliberately causing trouble for them. I don't think this situation is my fault at all. My reaction was probably what any sane person would do in my situation. I'm not jealous. I'm just disappointed that she's not prioritizing her own children. What I'm not okay with is being disrespected by people who depend on me, and my mother not standing up for me when her husband is rude to me. I left my mother and her family in a foreign country because my stepdad tried to force me to share a room with my step-siblings on a vacation that I paid for. Update. Hey, everyone. I didn't apologize to my mother, nor did I get back in touch with her after reading your comments. I realized I don't owe her as much as I thought, and the fact that I'd even offered to take her on vacation should have been appreciated. But she took it too far by not only demanding to bring her family, but also expecting me to sacrifice my personal space and privacy for her stepkids. I don't even understand why she would expect me to sit down and discuss things like a family when they're not even my family in the first place. Her husband is her husband, not my dad, and her kids are her stepkids, not my siblings. I don't owe them any discussions whatsoever, and I only left because they were incredibly disrespectful towards me, even though I was the one who organized the vacation for them all. The least they could have done was show me some gratitude and respect, but they chose not to. I don't see anything wrong with what I did. The only mistake I made was letting my mother convince me to let her bring her family along on the vacation. They're not my family, and I don't owe it to her to let her enjoy the trip at my expense. But I felt like I needed to repay her, which is why I allowed myself to be pushed around like this. She was a good mother to me, but that's no excuse for her to act so entitled now, in my opinion. It's been a whole day, and I haven't responded to her texts. She keeps texting me on and off, but I haven't bothered to check or block her since she'll just make another account to bother me. It's better to let her ramble on since I've muted her and won't be bothered. Now, I'm enjoying my solo trip. Update. Lol, my mom just showed up at the hotel with the rest of her family and threw a tantrum in the lobby when they wouldn't let her up to see me or tell her my room number, which is just normal hotel policy. I don't know why she was surprised at that. Anyway, when I went down to see what she wanted, she was furious and pulled me aside to yell at me for what I had done. Apparently, they managed to check out of the previous hotel by coordinating with their bank and paying them off somehow. But now they wanted answers from me about why I had left them. I didn't feel like I owed them an explanation, but I still told my mother exactly why I'd left. I watched as her husband's expression soared more and more as I spoke. By the time I finished, he looked like he was about to burst with annoyance. But I didn't care. It was his own fault they were in this situation, and if he had just been polite to me, I wouldn't have left. So making faces at me to guilt-trip me was pointless. My mother chose to lecture me about family values and morals. She said what I did was unacceptable and humiliating for them, painting me as a coward. I was already angry, and when she brought up the family again, I burst out, telling her we weren't a family at all. She had lied and hidden her new family from us for a long time, only revealing it when she was about to get married. Moreover, neither she nor her husband had ever made an effort to make me feel like family, so it was entitled of them to expect me to treat them as such. I told her to her face that I didn't want to see her anymore and wanted them to leave me alone for the rest of the vacation. She demanded I book their flight tickets back home, but I refused. I had done what I promised, but if they couldn't appreciate it, then I wasn't going to bend over backward to help them. They were adults with their own money, and if they were going to take me for granted, they could say goodbye to my offer. There was some more arguing after that, but thankfully my stepdad intervened and took them away, shooting me nasty looks as if I cared. It's been a couple of hours since then, and now I'm on my way out for dinner with a friend of mine. A friend who lives here reached out to me when she found out I was visiting. Hopefully my mom and her family will just go back home and let me enjoy the rest of this trip on my own because I really have no interest in continuing this unnecessary fight. Update. So it turns out I was wrong about my mother letting go of this as easily as I thought. I thought 2 days ago, after a really bad argument where I pretty much told her I didn't owe her anything, that she'd leave me alone. But clearly not. Just as I was about to head out and explore the city on my own, I received a call from reception saying my mother was back here to visit me again. This time, she was alone. So I decided to go see her because I just wanted an end to this argument so I could enjoy my vacation. I didn't know what to expect when I went to speak to her in the lobby. But she looked more upset than angry, so I knew today wouldn't be as bad as the last time she came to see me. She started by apologizing for losing her temper and acting entitled because she apparently didn't even realize she was acting that way. She also explained that she and her husband had been going through a rough patch before I invited her on vacation and thought this trip could help build lasting bonds between us. She loves all of us equally and wants us to be a part of each other's lives. However, she wasn't sure if that was the right approach anymore because it was clear that I didn't get along with her husband and vice versa. They had a very nasty fight after leaving the hotel the other day, where he accused her of raising me terribly. He crossed a line when he compared her to his ex-wife, who had been a better mother, according to him. His ex-wife would regularly leave his kids alone at home for hours while she went out, which ultimately led to their divorce when he found out. For him to make such a comparison just because I stood up for myself was going too far. My mother said she loves him, so she's okay with it. The reason she visited me today was to inform me that they were all flying back home the next day. She apologized for her behavior, explaining that she had been stressed about her relationship with her husband, which was why she had been on edge. She expressed regret for her actions but also mentioned that she needed some space for a while. This meant I couldn't call her regularly to chat about life like we used to. While I hadn't planned on calling her during my vacation anyway, knowing that our relationship might change for the foreseeable future because of her husband was disheartening. Despite this, I told her I understood. We shared a really awkward, cold hug. Honestly, I wish she hadn't contacted me at all and hadn't bothered to apologize. This just makes me feel worse about what happened. I know she messed up, but she's still my mom. She was my best friend while growing up, so losing her to this new family of hers feels like losing the only part of my childhood that I still carry with me. It hurts, but there's not much I can do. And there's nothing I even want to do given the circumstances. She's the one who chose her husband and her stepkids over me, so what can I even do? I'll just try to enjoy the rest of my stay here because I'm paying a lot to stay at this expensive hotel. That's that. Update 4. Hi. So I came back home about 3 days ago, and I'm supposed to resume work tomorrow. I tried to make the best of my trip, and it was quite fun. I almost forgot about my situation with my mother until last night when I heard from my grandparents that she decided to leave her husband because they were going through a rough patch anyway and realized they couldn't work things out anymore. The family she put me second to is no longer her priority, which is a little strange and sad to think about because she chose them over me. But she doesn't even have that anymore. We haven't spoken since she left me at the hotel that last day she visited me, and I haven't tried to reach out to her either because it seemed pointless. After a while, I forgot about her because I was having fun on the trip. Even after coming back, I didn't think of her much, but she didn't talk to me, so I didn't try to talk to her either. I didn't want to force my presence where I wasn't wanted, and she made it very clear that she didn't want to talk to me at the moment. Maybe she won't change her mind in the future either, from the looks of the situation now. I mean, she didn't even tell me she decided to file for divorce, and that's pretty significant. I think this is pretty much the end of the road for my mother and me. Hypothetically, even if we do reconcile someday, things will never be the way they used to be. I'm okay with that now because I was a good daughter to her, and I tried my best until I felt like I couldn't anymore. So I'm cool with whatever happens now, and I wish the best for her because I'm too old to hold grudges against anyone, let alone my own mom. I'll try to move past this as well now, I guess.